Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group. I'm Corey Anderson. I'll be leading the meeting today. This is our agenda for this morning. First of all, we'll have our welcome and general business information. We also have a time for member announcements in a few minutes here. So if you have any announcements that are NetSuite related, such as job openings or looking for NetSuite related job, that'll be your opportunity to make that announcement. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Then we're going to hear from our meeting sponsor today, VersaPay. And Christina, I see you're on now, so we'll turn it over to you in a little bit here. And then our main presentation today, NetSuite Back to Basics. That'll be presented by Dana Larson of Dana Larson Consulting. Then we will have, I think we're going to have tips and tricks with Mike. Mike, are we having tips and tricks?
Yes, we will have
Okay,
tips and tricks
all
on
right.
journals.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And then after that, we're going to have our open forum. The open forum is a part of the meeting where you can ask any NetSuite related question that you have, any challenges, anything that you've come across you can't find the answer to, and then as a group, we'll help each other and try and answer each other's questions. Go ahead and start and move on here. First of all, talk about membership. Membership to our user group is free. You register at rmnsug.org. Once you register, it ensures that you get notifications of upcoming meetings and events. We do have happy hour, in-person happy hour events occasionally throughout the year. As a member, you also get access to our LinkedIn forum. So if you are not a member, please sign up today. Where to find us? We have a website. It is www.rmnsug.org. You can also just do a Google search for Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group and we'll come up for you. We also have a YouTube channel. This is where we post all of our meeting recordings. You can go to YouTube and search RMNSUG and you'll find us there as well. And then we also have a LinkedIn user group forum, and that is a closed forum, so you do have to be a member of the group, but again, membership is free. That is the group number. You can also just search for Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group in LinkedIn, and you'll find us that way as well. I wanted to point out that we do post all of our meetings. We have recordings and slides posted on our website. All of the previous meetings that we've done for the last, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 years at this point, are at rmnsug.org/posts. Or you can just go to the website and then there's a posts link that you click on right there. I'd like to take a second to introduce the board of directors for the user group. We are a nonprofit, we are volunteers. We don't get any compensation for running this user group. And so I want to just say thank you to the board of directors and all of the work that you continually do to help support the user group. So that's me on the left-hand side there. I'm Corey Anderson. I'm a principal with Stratos ERP Partners. Then we have our treasurer, Dana Larson of Dana Larson Consulting, and she'll be our main presenter today. So she's here in the blue coat. Then we have our communications chair, Mike Kackline. He's in the back here. He is with Vertifor. Then we have our speaker chair, Peggy Evleth. She is with RSM US. And she is the one who is responsible for our CPE credits, which I'll talk about in a few more minutes here. And then we have our sponsorship and member chair, Margie Cominos of the PlantScan Corporation. Margie is one of the founding members of the Rocky Mountain NetSuite user group. She has been on the board of directors. She was the president for a while, and she was on the board of directors for, I think, 14 years now at this point. And she's not with us today, but thank you, Margie, for everything you do, and thank you everybody else for everything that you do. I'd also like to take a second to say happy birthday to Mike Kackline. Mike is our communications chair. It's really interesting. Last meeting that we had in May was Dana Larson's birthday, and then today our meeting the birthday is Mike Kackline. So 2 meetings in a row with one of our board members' birthdays. Pretty cool. Anyway,
Thanks,
happy
Corey.
birthday, Mike.
Thanks, Corey.
You're welcome. All right, so we have Suite World 2024 coming up. It will be at the same place that it was the last couple of years in the Caesars Forum in Las Vegas. The date is moved up a month this year. It is now September 9th through 12th. And one thing to note is that there will be a keynote session on Monday the 9th. Usually in the past, they haven't done any keynotes or sessions on Monday. They've all started on Tuesday, but they've expanded the meeting or the conference this year. So keynote session on Monday. So if you're going, make sure you're set your travel plans accordingly. Right now, there is a $300 discount available that will expire on July 27th. After that expires, we, the user group, will have a limited number of discount codes for the group. It's going to be the same $300 discount. It's kind of mostly just for last minute registrations, folks who couldn't get the registration in time to get the standard NetSuite discount. So if you do want that discount after the 27th, you can email info@rmnsug.org and we'll send you the code for that discount. We have a limited number available, so first come, first serve on that. And then one thing I wanted to say, I have a pro tip. If you are going to Suite World, I have found the best place to stay. It is at the Link Hotel in District 3. Now, Suite World doesn't say that this isn't one of their hotels that they recommend to go to, but it is actually the closest hotel to Caesars Forum. You basically come down out of your elevator and walk across the bridge into the forum, and it's right there. You don't have to go outside. It is a great place to stay if you're going to Suite World. Okay, so we'll take a moment here for our member announcements. If you have an announcement, you can unmute yourself and say your announcement, or if you're shy, you can put it in the chat window. And I can read it for you. You can also make that announcement on our LinkedIn forum if you remember and have asked for access. So I'll just take a minute here for anybody to unmute themselves and make an announcement. Or you can post it in the chat window. So any announcements, job postings, NetSuite related, looking for a job, anything going on there. Okay, no announcements going once. Going twice. All right. Well, if you think about it later, you can post it in the chat window and we can bring it back up later on.
Corey, we have a question on the chat there.
Does RMNSUG plan to attend the event at the Ritz-Carlton? I don't know what that is. Oh, is that that's the event here in Denver?
I bet that's their training thing.
Yeah, the NetSuite event. Right now, we're not planning on attending that event. I don't know if any of our board members are, but as a user group, we are not planning on attending it. But if we do, Roman, we'll look for you if you're going to be there. All right, so evaluations, we do send out evaluations. They'll be sent out today. So please take a few moments to let us know how we're doing. We read and act on the feedback from those evaluations. One of the most important things that we get from those is future meeting topic ideas. So if you have any ideas or meeting topics that you want to see in the future, please make sure you say that in the evaluations. Just a quick reminder, please use the same email to RSVP as the email that you received the meeting invite. We try to maintain individual member records. If you received an invite to the meeting with different email addresses, please email rsvp@rmnsug.org to have the extra email addresses inactivated. Provide the correct company name in which email should be inactivated. We just try and keep a clean list of current members. So I'm going to talk just a minute about meeting sponsorship. So membership to the user group is free. The cost of our meetings is supported by 2 levels of sponsorship. We have Suite App and consulting sponsors. Suite App sponsors must be available through suiteapp.com, and consulting sponsors must offer NetSuite consulting services and have certified NetSuite consultants on staff. If you or your company is interested in sponsoring a user group meeting, you can learn more and sign up at rmnsug.org/sponsorship. CPE credits. So for those of you who don't know what CPE is, CPE stands for Continuing Professional Education. These are credits that are required for CPAs. CPAs need to have a certain number of CPE credits every year to maintain their CPA status. Some companies also require their employees to get a certain number of CPE credits through the year, even if they're not CPAs. So we are offering 2 CPE credits for today's meeting. There will be polling questions throughout the meeting that you must answer to be eligible for the credits. You must have also registered for the Zoom meeting with your first name, last name, and email address. If we don't have all of that information, we can't issue the CPE credits to you. CPE credits after the meeting, they take 4 to 6 weeks to issue. So please be patient with us. We're all volunteers, and Peggy is the one who does all the CPE credits, and it takes her some time to process them and make sure we have all of the correct information on those. So a huge thank you to Peggy Evleth and RSM US for sponsoring our CPE credits. It's a very valuable thing that we can offer to our user group members. And we have a surprising number of folks that sign up for CPE credits for every meeting. So again, thank you, RSM and Peggy. So we have an upcoming special event. This will be in August. This is intercompany transactions and eliminations. So we try and do these special events for topics that are smaller topics that don't take up an entire like 2-hour meeting time. And so this is about an hour-long meeting. Peggy Evleth from RSM US is going to be presenting. It'll be August 14th at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And there will be a CPE credit available for this meeting as well. So invites for this will be coming out in the next, I don't know, probably week or two.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Okay, yeah. And so make sure if you want to attend, you do need to RSVP, and you need to sign up through Zoom if you want to get the CPE credits. So that'll be coming up soon. So then the rest of our events that we have coming, our upcoming meetings, again, the intercompany transactions and eliminations in August. And then September, we'll have our meeting on customizing NetSuite. I will be presenting that one. It's going to be all about custom records, custom fields, customizing sublists, all the fun things that you can do customizing NetSuite to get the most out of it. Then in November, it will be our scripting for non-scripters. That'll be presented by the birthday boy, Mike Cackline. And he's done this meeting before, and it's really fantastic. It kind of opens the whole black box of scripting to people who aren't developers. So it's really a great meeting. And then I'll also give a Sweet World update at that meeting. And then in January, we always do NetSuite reporting of some sort in January. So we're not quite sure what we're going to do yet, but it could be save searches, standard reporting, suite analytics, workbooks, something like that. But that'll be our content in January. So I'd like to take a minute to thank our consulting sponsor today. Our consulting sponsor is Dana Larson Consulting. So thank you, Dana. Dana Larson Consulting is Dana Larson, experienced NetSuite help, implementation support, optimization support, recovery from implementation gone wrong. That happens quite a bit. We see that. She can be an outsourced administrator, offers training, and then also offers phone a friend support for other consultants. So thank you for taking the time to put together this presentation today, Dana, and thank you for sponsoring the user group. I'd also like to say thank you to our Suite App sponsor. Our Suite App sponsor today is VersaPay. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Christina Wedge from VersaPay for about 10 minutes. And Christina is going to tell you about what VersaPay can do for you. Christina, I'm going to stop sharing and you can take over.
Perfect. First, I would like to apologize for the noise. I am traveling today, so it's a little bit noisy where I am. I won't take a lot of your time. I appreciate you allowing us to sponsor. We are a Suite App partner of NetSuite, and we actually have 2 listings inside of Suite App. One is ERP payments for NetSuite, And the other is collaborative AR, which is inclusive of our full collaborative AR software, as well as our cash application software. Additionally, as end users, you've probably seen a little bit of a buzz around the new NetSuite Pay option. That is a NetSuite product that NetSuite is offering, but the NetSuite Pay module is powered by VersaPay. So the difference between the traditional ERP payments for NetSuite and the NetSuite Pay is that NetSuite Pay is an automated process with very transparent flat rate pricing. And then if you have any additional customizations or maybe a more complex solution requirement, then you can use the traditional ERP payments that you would be used to. So this actually just goes into a little bit of a deeper dive with what the difference is. So again, we have the traditional ERP payments for NetSuite and or NetSuite Pay, and that gives you the payment functionality that you're used to. So credit card and ACH capabilities, as well as a customer portal. Those would be what we would call our traditional payments offering. But if you're a larger customer and you need a more robust dunning solution or advanced auto payments or dispute management, then you would want to scale up and leverage our full collaborative AR software. Or if you have Lockbox or any types of mobile AR payment needs, then we have our cash application software, which is powered by the AI, but also machine learning. So it takes the regular check lockbox information and automatically reconciles that back to your NetSuite instance. So it's basically a pick pack for whatever your business needs are, whether it be small or large. We can customize that to fit your needs. A few customer stories here. Well, let me step back. These are the industries that we are really well versed in. We do a lot of investment in these particular industries. So if this is one of your industries, then we will be a perfect fit for you. Here is a customer quote here of why they love the Suite app. And what I love about this is it's always funny when you see someone who's excited about payments processing, because ideally what our main focus is to make your jobs easier so that you can move on and concentrate on functions that will make your business money versus having to worry about some of the operational inefficiencies that you might have. This is a real live example of one of our customers called Instapage that implemented our solution. And what that did was allow them to increase their accuracy. So it minimized the errors due to the previous manual entry piece. And it also integrated into the NetSuite system again. So it's automatic reconciliation, removing the steps from that manual process. Arrive Logistics is one of our customers that implemented our cash application project, which they saw an 88% invoice match rate in less than 2 months. So again, it maximized efficiency within the accounts receivable department and allowed them to focus on other things. And lastly, we have our cybersecurity firm that they've been actually a client since 2019, and they have 99% of their customers inside the portal. So inside the portal, it's allowing them to do the dispute resolution to their customers versus having a customer call you or email you to try to resolve some sort of discrepancy in the invoice or whatever goods they receive. This is full supplier and customer portal where you can interact and keep a record of your customer engagements. I would like to point you guys to the chat. We are doing a raffle for all of the user group members. And since today actually happens to be Prime Day, we have 2 $250 Amazon gift cards. Again, I'll drop the link back in the chat. I did it at the very beginning when Corey started talking, but I'll do it again. If we don't capture your information, then we obviously won't be able to do the drawing for the Amazon gift cards. But again, there's two $250 Amazon gift cards. Please grab the link, put your information in, and we will do the drawing. If you have any further questions, you feel free to click on this link that you see on your screen right now, or you can give us a call at the number there. Other than that, like I said, I know you guys have a packed day, so I will turn it back over to Corey and let you guys get it kicked off.
Great. Thank you, Christina. We really appreciate VersaPay sponsoring the user group. I did post the raffle link at the bottom of the chat window. So if everybody can go and enter the raffle right now. And at this point, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dana Larson. And looks like we'll have a few extra minutes today, Dana. So we don't have to rush. You don't have to rush through everything.
Okay. We'll see how that goes. If we can keep everybody engaged, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of material. So, okay, I'm going to share my screen. And so good morning, everyone. I'm Dana Larson, as Corey said, with Dana Larson Consulting. Been working with NetSuite since 2007. So just a couple years of experience working on all the NetSuite fun. So I just turned off the chat for myself. I wanted to point that out that I think it was last year or the year before, I was too distracted by the chat. And so I'm trying to turn that off and let Corey and Mike manage answering questions as we go. But feel free to post questions as they come up. And then I would say, Corey and Mike, please interrupt me. I don't mind that at all. If it's something that we could just hit right at that moment and cover it. They can also just answer you in the chat, or we save them until the end, and then we go over them as part of our open forum at the end of the session. So so please use the chat, and also feel free to engage and answer questions on your own. It takes a village here for all of us to learn NetSuite. I learn something new every day. And so feel free to jump in there. Our agenda for today is, this is a rough outline. Oh, also I'll mention, I posted at the very beginning of the chat, there's a link to this PowerPoint out on the Rocky Mountain NetSuite User Group website. So you can download this PowerPoint. It's actually in PDF form right now because it's easier to display. But you can download that because I'm going to be jumping between the PowerPoint and NetSuite a lot. And I know that can be hard to follow. So if you want to keep the PowerPoint up in one screen and then see me in NetSuite in the other, feel free to do that. All right, so this is called Back to Basics. And what I try to do is go over some of the general navigation, general things about NetSuite that I would say you would use 90% of these things. Like you may not do CSV imports, but it might be nice for you to know what's possible with them, things like that. So this is a basics one. So if you've been working in NetSuite for a long time, you may find a lot of this you already know. You may pick up a few, I hope, a few tips and tricks here and there where it's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And like I said, I discover new ones all the time. And so I try to incorporate that into this. So we'll just be going through these topics and having fun with that. So we're going to start with our general navigation and go through shortcuts and quick adds. These are dashboard things, the layout, how to refresh the layout, and then a funny tip and trick on global search edit directly. So I will mention we tried to go to the users for this and say, hey, do you have any things that you would like us to cover? We reached out to some newer users with NetSuite. And so there's some of those peppered in here. I've done this presentation before, tried to update it, add some new things. But as Corey said in the introduction, please when you fill out the survey, for this, please let us know what we could add to the next one, or anytime let me know what great tips you have for using it. And we could even open that up at the end for people to share. This changed my life when I discovered this. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for these, that we can all share with each other. So maybe take note of that, and we can talk about that at the end. All right, so I'm going to pop over into NetSuite so we can look at things together as we go. I am in an environment, a test environment, so it's not great. It doesn't have any transactions basically from way back. Nobody's using this test environment. It's the last one I have though, so we had to use this one. So general navigation in NetSuite, you have your menu bar across the top and then your dashboard. Wanted to talk about a few things that are super basic, but really helpful if you're not using them. The shortcuts portlet, these little squares, each one's called a portlet. You can update these portlets, you can move them around. You can say, okay, I want this down here. The shortcuts are ways to set up links to different menu options and different places in NetSuite without, so you don't have to say, I want to go to reports, financial income statement. You can just put it here and make it a shortcut. It also will always show up if you hover on the star, all of the shortcuts that you see will show up here. So no matter where you are in NetSuite, you don't even have to come back to the dashboard. You can just go to shortcuts. And so I'd recommend anytime you create a report that you use on a regular basis or something like that, go ahead and pop it into your shortcuts. To do that, you're in a URL, you're in a place, and you just say, I want to add that to my shortcuts. And then when you do, it comes up with a window that says, you can then say save, and then it'll show up. You can also set up your shortcuts. You can move them around and put them in a different order. You can say if you want that shortcut to open a new window or not. You can also add URLs to your shortcuts to say, I want to click out and have my bank login page come up. So you can do new shortcuts and put in URLs directly if you'd prefer to take it outside of NetSuite from that shortcut, which could be really helpful, I think. If that's part of your daily job to go log into your bank, why not put the link right there? We have a quick add, and I don't have a lot of customers who are using this. I haven't seen it used a lot, but I think it would be really helpful if you were someone whose your job was to add things like either a vendor, even like an account to the chart of accounts or things like that. You could create a quick add, which means I want to go ahead and just right from here add it. I think the most I've used it for are tasks or cases to add a quick add. You can go in, and these fields, just so you know, are dictated by the default vendor. So for example, if I go to lists relationships and I say I want to add a new vendor, when you customize this form, there's a little quick add checkbox that you say what you want to include on the quick add screen, because then you don't have to include everything. You can just include the ones that are, oh, I hate that drag and drop that's in the way. So I'm not even going to go in there, but it's right. Let me see if I change the size of my screen, if I can get to it. All right, somebody tell me how you get around that. It's stuck behind my file drag and drop. Well, we'll keep going, but it's the customizing the form, which is typically an admin role anyway. But if you're ever wondering, how come I don't see the fields I want in this quick add? It's dictated by the form that's behind that. Another favorite of mine is this create new up here. This, it's just a drop down. And so if in your job, you frequently create sales orders, or maybe you do quotes, maybe you do invoices, you can add them to this quick add so that you don't have to go into transactions, sales, create sales order, or create invoice. So you can personalize this quick add by clicking on there. One that I typically try to add to this is the save search, because I'm always creating new save searches. And to get to them, I'm not even seeing it on here. Should have checked that. Oh, there it is, save search, it's already there. It's checked. So if you wanted to add like an activity to that, you could do that and then say save. And now when you're in, they call it the new bar. I'm not sure why, I guess it's the new button on the bar. Now you can see the activity is here. So I'll cancel that right now. So that's the new bar. You can add things to that. Recent records. I use this all the time. There's a portlet for recent records down here that you may want to put up at the top of your screen so that you see it. But I usually use this one, which is the clock up here. So let's say I've just been working on this constituent record and then I wanted to go back in and look at something. I don't have to go search for it. I can just say, oh yeah, I had that up recently, and you can pull that up. So I think that's super helpful. And by the way, the reason you see it say constituent here is that we changed the entity record. This is a nonprofit version of NetSuite where they've changed some of the names and they call them constituents instead of customers. So and that's then becomes a global change in the system when you do that. Now, you can personalize your dashboard up here by clicking on personalize. And this is where you can select things that you want to add. So you could do a snapshot of a report, a custom search, meters. You can see these that are grayed out, I already have on my dashboard. And there's some more over here. Let's see. Tasks, if you wanted to see what tasks you have assigned to you. You can also, there's also Suite Apps. I have the subsidiary navigator already on here, and we're going to talk about that one later. And then currently used shows you what you have in there right now. So you can add them, you can move them around. You can also change the layout. So I'm going to close that personalized box. Oh, by the way, I've had this scare before. People, if you click on the top part of a portlet, it closes the little portlet, hides it. So if you want to make things smaller, just to see everything. And I've had them, get scared that they lost all their shortcuts. But if you just click on it again, it opens it up. So, but it does give you more real estate on your screen if you want to keep some of the larger ones closed. You can change your layout if you want to make it narrow and have a narrow column on both sides and then one in the middle. You'll pay attention to layout if you have saved search results that you want to show that have several columns. You'll definitely need to have a wider column in order to show that. One thing about reminders, and we're going to talk about that more in depth in a minute, but I want to, and frankly, on all of these, you can press this little refresh button, because if you've been working on your reminders, it's not going to refresh that all the time. It does it occasionally, and like when you log in the morning, it'll do it. But I'll come in here and I'll say I want to refresh my reminders, and then it'll fix them. And you can do those portlet by portlet. You can refresh. A long time ago, we did a tip and trick on how to write something that would kick off a refresh for all of your portlets. Boy, I have no idea if Corey, if you remember what year that was, you could put it in the chat, but that was a long time ago. So some people, if you're living off of your dashboard and you're doing all of your work here, it is helpful to have those reminders updated so that you know about new things, actually all of the portlets updated. Then we also have, I guess I skipped over some of these standard ones. There's KPIs that are already created. So for example, all I did was add this KPI scorecard to my dashboard. And then it said, which scorecard do you want? And these are all pre-built for NetSuite. So I'd recommend, now I'm in the nonprofit edition, but the financial ratios is one that would be in everybody's. And so now I could put financial ratios and it's already built. And you can see, obviously my numbers are bad. I don't have good data in here, but you can see that they've already said this period to last period, what's my change? Is this good or bad? And then also you could turn on for example, you can click on this and see a trend graph. And so if this is helpful, obviously my data is not changing. So you can change it to say yearly, or, take it to any different levels of how you want to view it. And so this is a good way if you want a more visual representation of what's happening. You can publish a dashboard. So there's down here, you'll see it in this settings. Oh, I also wanted to say in the settings down here, this is where you change your two-factor settings or update your security questions. I get this one a lot. People will say, I never answered the security questions, and so now I can't reset my password because I have no idea the answers to those questions. And so once you're logged in, if someone helps you log in, then you can update your security questions here. And remember them so that if you get locked out, you can get yourself back in. You can also change your password here. If your role has the published dashboard, if it's allowed for your role, you can publish it. Now, there are some caveats. You can only publish it to a role that has the same center, which is a NetSuite term for basically what your menu options look like. And so I'm in a classic center right now, and I usually use that center, which would mean I could publish this dashboard to anybody who's also using a classic center. And the reason I bring it up for you is if at some point, let's say your administrator gives you a new role, let's say you got a new job and a new role within your company, but you really like your dashboard. When you get the new role and you log in, it's going to erase your dashboard because the dashboards are role specific for you. And so let's say you've done a lot of work on this dashboard and you really want it. You may want to publish that role to a new role so that you have it when you're in your other role. Now you'll have to be careful because if other people have that role, you don't want to write over their dashboards. But I just wanted to throw that out, put it in the back of your mind, because if it comes up, just remember that there are ways to publish dashboards. Also, if you have new employees and they're taking on a new position, you can give them a role that has a published dashboard that's already nice and filled out for them. So it's a nice feature. Okay. Now we're going to get into reminders.
Dana, real quick, I did find that automatic dashboard refresh script.
Yeah.
I posted a link to it in the chat window, and that was from 2014, by the way.
Okay. I knew it was a long time ago, but thank you for doing that, because
Yep.
I thought it was a fun one, and I thought it was very, it could be really helpful to people. So I have no idea how to do it. I have to go follow that along with that again in order to be able to do anything with that. Thanks, Corey. So reminders are one of my favorite things, frankly, in NetSuite, because I feel like if you have a list in the morning that shows you these are things that you need to take action on, it's really easy to keep up and to keep your data clean in the system, keep your tasks up to date, keep everything going. So it's basically, I use it as a to-do list with my clients. You can create searches that tell you when you're required to act. For example, if an entity or a transaction is in a given state. So for example, this is waiting for approval. This has been rejected and needs you to review. You could frankly have someone's entire job driven by these reminders where they just all throughout the day work through them. We use it also for data integrity to make sure, hey, make sure that you don't have a customer who has, for example, they're a 1099 eligible, but they don't have a tax ID. That's a problem, and you don't want to have to deal with that in January. Why not be told about that when it happens? You can create them, of course, for tasks if you're using the tasks within NetSuite. And then you can change the headline reminders with colors and everything to tell you what's due. So I wanted to show you one. I just mentioned that 1099 vendors without a tax ID. So I wanted to show you how you do that. If you were to, and by the way, if you ever get these things, be sure to check the don't show message again. Otherwise, it's going to come up every time. And the same thing happens with that drag and drop when you add that. So, all right, so I'm going to show you the search I created, and we're going to go into searches a little bit more later, but I just wanted to show you all I did on this search was I said, I want to see any 1099 eligible vendors. I'm in a vendor search where the tax ID is empty. And actually, I'm going to say inactive is false because I don't really care if it's inactive. I don't really care about getting a tax ID. Then this is the important key. If you check this box that says available for reminders, I'm going to save that. And then now over on the dashboard, you can see I have 5 of them. On my dashboard, you come in here and you say set up and you add it to your reminders. I want it to be headlined and I'm going to say save. And so now I see those 5. You can also go like this and say, I want to add a rule. I want to make it red when it's greater than 4. So then you see this little colored bar next to it. And so as you're doing your work, of course, it'll draw your attention to the ones that are red, and you can add different highlighting rules to that. So once in the morning, you come in and you go, oh, we have some new vendors. They don't have a tax ID. And then you can just click on this, takes you to the list. And then once you add the tax ID, you can then, they then drop from your list. So I highly recommend that your reminder lists have actionable items that take them off the list, as opposed to things that will stay on there forever. You can do that. You can have things that stay forever. Like you could have something like my top, or you could check a few customers and say, I want these on my dashboard so I can get to them. But I prefer to have reminders where you're trying to get it to 0. The other thing you do is you can do a setup here and say show reminders with 0 results is on or off. When I turn that off, this one right here is going to go away. So if you had 30 reminders, it would be kind of nice to hide the ones with 0 because then it leaves only the ones you care about. And so again, think about, especially month end, if you're in the accounting department, where you think about like, oh, at the end of the month, I always have to look for things that are wrong, that look like this. Maybe someone booked to a department that shouldn't belong to that account code or something like that. Well, you can write a saved search to alert you to it right away so that you're keeping it clean all month. Or maybe you're in charge of adding items to the system and you want to know, when do I add an item and I haven't included this information or something like that. Okay. So
Dana, I'm sorry, real quick. There was a question. Tanya said, what are the criteria again? Tanya, do you mean the criteria for the vendors? Yes. For the 1099 vendor search.
so is it right here what you mean, how to get it to show up there is if you check this available for reminders box on the saved search. Is that what you were asking,
I think
Tanya?
she's looking at the criteria that's on your screen right now, the bottom.
Oh, okay. Yep. I said 1099 eligible, yes, is true. Tax ID is empty. And then I said inactive, false. And remember, these can be whatever you care about, right? But for me, that's a pretty much a global one. You would want to know, did I say that they're eligible for 1099s, but I didn't get a tax ID? Does that answer it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Are there any others, Corey, there?
Yeah, so there was another question that, are you planning on showing how to create a simple safe search at all, Dana?
I am at the very end.
Okay,
Oh, no,
great.
wait. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of CSV imports. Let me see.
Okay.
I am going to talk about, let's see how much time we have when I get to the reporting ones. Because that, if not, we might do that in our January session when we talk about reporting. But,
Yeah, and I'll send a link to our safe search meeting as well in the
okay,
chat window here.
great. Okay. All right, thanks. And do feel free, since we do have a little bit more time today, I'm very happy to have you guys jump in with questions, because it's sometimes if you have the question, everybody else probably does too. But I am easily distracted by the squirrels that pop up in the chat, so I'm not I'm not gonna keep that open. So okay. So again, we were just talking about the dashboard and adding reminders, and I think this is a very powerful part of NetSuite that's often overlooked. And the reminders that you set up can be just for you, or you can share those. There's another one where you can set the reminder, whoever's creating the saved search can say mine on the filter. So let's say it was journal entries that I created that got rejected. So they only have to create one saved search, but when you put it on your reminder screen, it's only going to show you the ones that you care about. So just so you know, things like that, filters like that exist out there too. Let me just flip through here. KPI meters are nice, like, dashboard to tell you where you stand in a certain place. You can add those. A quick search is similar to the global search up there. The bank rec comes up on everyone. One thing I put on the agenda that I'll talk about in a minute, but let's say we wanted to find, this is kind of misplaced, but Keith Brinkley was that vendor. If I say I'm looking for Keith Brinkley, this is one thing I see people do a lot, is they see the constituent and they click on it, and then they say edit once they get to it. Don't forget that you can click edit or dashboard over here to see the customer dashboard, or go straight into edit mode. It saves you the wait, because once I click on this, the system has to load it. Then I click on edit, it has to reload it. And so just go straight to edit, or go straight to their dashboard. So don't forget to use these over here. And of course, you can right click to open in a new window or a new tab. Those are super helpful, that I hope everyone is already using. Okay, the next step is the preferences. Right here under your home button, there's the set preferences. And I'll go back to my, I should show this. There's quite a bit on here where I talk about what pieces we're going to go through. This will just help you know where to find stuff later. If you say, where did she show that the defaults or the colors and styles? So these are the tabs that we could look at together. So we'll jump through some of those. Some of these won't be relevant for you, but I want to make sure you know where you can find them. You can put in a signature block right here that has HTML, so it'll be nicer looking when you're sending out your emails. You can change the from email address so that it's different than the email address that you log in with for your user. And again, this is just for you, not for the company. This is where you would add those signatures. You can change your language if your native language is different than the one that your company is using. Your time zone, you can change that. Your date formatting, hour formatting, phone number, all of that formatting. Over here, the one that I like the best is this show internal IDs. I use that a lot when you add let's say you add a customer, it assigns an internal ID to that customer. Well, I know that those internal IDs are sequential. So if I ever go look at a list, I can always sort by the internal ID to see what order were these entered. So for example, I can see the last one that was entered because I can sort by that internal ID. It's also really helpful if you're doing CSV imports and you want to update records. The internal ID is really helpful. Let's see on here. These right here are helpful for the number of rows in list segments and the maximum entries and dropdowns. So this has to do, we'll talk about the list segments. So if I were to look at a sub list of transactions on, say, a vendor record, it would show me 50, but I can move that up and see, I think up to 200 at a time. So I usually bump that up because I want to see more when I'm looking at you know how it pages from one segment to the next when you're looking at a list. That's what controls that. The maximum entries and drop downs is really helpful if you're doing, I'm going to try this, make journal entry. So a drop down versus a search is what this one is talking about. And do you see how this subsidiary is a drop down because there's not very many? When you're clicked into this, you can just do like this and it shows you all of them. So that would be a drop down versus this account. Do you see how it has the double arrow? That's because there's more than the number that we have in the set preferences. I'm going to go to department because that's usually one. No, they don't have departments. Here we go. So there's only 3 of those. So if I change in my preferences, maximum entries and drop downs, if I changed that and made it 2, just for grins, then it's going to go to that double arrow. I'll refresh. Let's let that stop spinning. Because I think so it's frustrating for people. Let's say there are 30 of these. They don't want the double arrow because they want to be able to pick from the list right from here. So you can change that by controlling that in that preference. I think this will work. If I go down now. See, that went to a double arrow instead of, so you can see how annoying it would be if I really just wanted to pick one, right? And now it's a double arrow. So we would set that preference to be a higher number to allow the drop down to have more in it. So I'm going to go ahead and change that back to 20. All right, I hope that makes sense. It's kind of it's a nuance, but it makes a big difference. Appearance, you can change your color theme. And so, it comes in the standard blue, but you can change it to say a different color or even a school that you support. I highly recommend that if you have a sandbox, you change the color theme of your sandbox to something that you don't like. And so I have mine as pink so that when I'm in a sandbox, I know I'm in the sandbox and I don't accidentally start doing transactions that I want in production. So you can change that. You can change your the fonts and the themes. There's, let's see, over here. Nothing too exciting over here. You can play around with it. If you didn't want the dashboard to be your first login, if you wanted to go straight somewhere, you can change that. Or if you're in sales and you want the customer dashboard as the default view on the customer record, you could do that too. In the transactions, for printing, you can say you want transaction email attachment format. I always change that to PDF because when I email them, I want them to be PDF. I'm not sure why the default is HTML because I think most people want their attachments to be PDF. So I would recommend that you change that there. Let's see, in the analytics, there is this one is really important. Report by period. As you know, in NetSuite, there's periods and there's dates. And so this will dictate what you see, how you do your reporting. So right now, the default is that you report by period for financials only. But you could set it to say never. If you wanted to run an income statement and drill down to a specific day, then you could come out here and say report by period never, and you'd be able to select the day on the bottom instead of just the period. This can be really helpful when you're trying to find a transaction and you don't want to look through hundreds of them. Let's say you're drilling into an income statement and you prefer to see it by date as opposed to period. Now, keep in mind, if you change this, if you allow a date period mismatch, which most people do, if someone else is running an income statement by period and you're running it by date, you could get different answers. And so I'll get a note from someone saying NetSuite's broken. We're getting different numbers on our income statements. And the first thing I ask them to do is come out here and look and see, are they reporting by period or by date? So this is one that I'll change temporarily occasionally to do something, and then I'll come back and I'll flip it to financials only, because I find that one easier to use. And that's how you report your financials. So that's better. Right here, show list when only one result. This is a good one for if you're doing a reminder search and you click on it. You know how if there's only one item on it, sometimes it opens that item instead of showing it to you in a list. If you check this box, it's just going to be a list of one instead of popping up the item. So I prefer that to have that one checked. And let's see, activities. I don't think I'm going to talk about anything on there. Alerts. This is if you wanted to only see one department, for example. Today I'm working on the sales department. So every report I run, I want to just see the sales department, or you can change these. It's only for your current session. So remember, next time you log in, it's going to show you everything again. But this can be pretty helpful if you really want to focus on something on that day. So you can change that. Custom preferences gets into things like the file drag and drop that we've added sticky notes. I'll talk about those at the end of today's session. So once you've made any changes, you do have to hit save in order for those to take place, but then they do take place immediately. Are there any questions on those preferences, Corey?
Nope, there's no questions. Yeah, so are we close to a CPE poll?
I think we are, yep.
Okay.
It is CPE time.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and launch the first polling question for CPE.
Do I stop there, or do you want to? Okay.
Nope,
You
I don't
share?
think so.
Oh,
Yep,
there it is.
no, you
Yep,
just
that's it.
should
Yep.
just pop up. So for CPE credits, please answer the polling question. You do need to answer all the polling questions throughout the meeting today. This is the first one. Go ahead and leave this open for about another 30 seconds or so. CPE polling question. Dana, there is a question in the chat. Are there documentation recommendation for capturing the settings?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not aware of any. There are products that capture settings for NetSuite in general, but I don't know that they capture them for. So if someone asked me to do that, I would probably take screenshots and save them. So that's about. I'm not aware of a way to report on those. Does anybody else know? Have they ever tried to document their preferences?
Not sure of a way to do that either.
Yeah, I can't think. And there's two sets of preferences, right? There's personal preferences, and then there's
Yep.
stuff like accounting preferences and general preferences and all that.
Yeah, the ones we went on are set just for you. So as a user.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and finish up our poll. So I'm going to end the poll, and the answer to that, you can copy a dashboard from one of your roles to another role if your roles are in the same center. Is that true or false, Dana?
That is true.
Okay.
All right. I think I closed that poll, or do you?
Nope, should be done.
Okay, that little window was up. I didn't know if I was okay. Are you back to seeing the global search?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is global search, which is also very powerful in NetSuite. So we're going to go over some general items and then some prefixes. I won't go over all of these, but this is for your reference. And then also the wildcard and how to use other items within the global search. So let's let's start with, if I'm in this screen, if you do Control G or Alt G, excuse me, Alt G, I'm in the wrong. It takes you to the global search. So if you like to keep your fingers on the dashboard, I mean on your keyboard, you can hit Alt G and it'll take you up to the search. And then this search is a way for you to find records easily. So you may be looking for a specific vendor. So you can type in VEN, that's your intro to say, I only want to see vendors, and then start typing. And this is bad, I don't, there's Arrow Advertising, starts with an AR, okay? So now you've limited your view to just those. If you want to see all of them, if you hit an enter right now, then it'll come up to that list to say, okay, here's the ones that, and remember, we set that preference to say, I want it to come up in a list view, not pop to the vendor. So that's why I'm seeing it in a list here. So if sometimes there's so many of what you're looking for, you can do it this way. So let's go back to our, if we do our Alt G, we'll go back up there. You can also narrow your search results or add to them. If you do, if you were to say like ARR, it's starting on the left side, but you can also do a wildcard, which is the %sign, and that'll use as many, it'll be multiple characters is what I'm trying to say. So in this case, I'm now pulling up way too many things. So I'm going to come in here and say vendor again. And if we do, so advertising came up, but it's saying I just want to do that. But if we were to go A_O, you don't see that arrow, but you do if you do A_R, because the underscore is just one letter missing. Let's say you didn't know how something was spelled. So then you can pull it up that way. If you do a plus sign after a search, it'll show you also any that are that have been made inactive. And this is also a setting to say, do I want to see inactives in my search? If you always want to see inactives, you can set that in your preference. I didn't show you that one. I think it's in the main general one. But if you don't want to see them typically, but then you just want to see them for this one search, if you put the plus sign after it, it's really helpful. And then we talked about the prefixes to show you all of the ways that you can limit your search. It's usually 3, it can be fewer. If I say I just want to see invoices that start with 11, if I do that, do I get more? Now I get everything with 11 and something after it. So you can sort that way. You can also do multiple text strings, and frankly, I haven't perfected this, but you can use a uppercase or as a separator between keywords so that you can search for, let's say you didn't know if something was spelled one way or another, you could put an or in. You can do, we did the inactive, you can, yeah, we talked about returning the single. I think the or one was one that could be really useful that I just haven't used as much, but I think it's a good one. Does anybody else have any good tricks for the global search that they use that helps them? We'll just throw that question out. Or any questions on global search?
There is a question, would a safe search or some kind of admin reporting clue you into general preferences changes? We have a few admins, so helpful if something proactively informed of changes. I'm not aware of being able to do a safe search to see individual user preference changes. You can do a save search for system preference changes, like global system changes, but I haven't seen it for user preferences.
Yeah, I'm looking at, let's just look for the word preference. So these are all the records that you can do save searches over, and I don't see one for preference. Yeah, that's a good question though. That would be interesting.
I'll look into it a little bit as we're going here, but I don't think there's a way to do it. If there is, I'll post it in the chat.
Well, and I'll throw another one out that's, I think, interesting with the preferences is when you set up a role in NetSuite, you can define some of those things globally for the role. And I've found that that's super helpful where, for example, the center that you have, most of my clients, we switch everyone to Classic Center so that their menu options look the same. So if one person is helping another one, they don't say, why does that look so different? Because if you're in a sales role, the default Classic Center for sales focuses on what do you do for sales. You have, you're entering your leads and then you have your customers. And so it's built around that. But if you put everybody on the Classic, then they look the same and you can cross train. And so when we set up the roles, we can say, I want this to be the Classic Center, but you can also set some of those other preferences like show internal IDs. You can turn that on for everybody. You can turn on the show list when it's one result. So you can do some of those at the role level to default it. So if you're an admin assigning roles, keep that in mind because it makes it easier for them, for the users when they can do that. All right. We have another CE question. They're
But
kind
there
of
was,
throughout here. Go ahead.
yeah, there's another good question from Melissa. I think I know this answer, but are you able to search for a dollar amount in global search?
No,
No.
I am not aware of that. Now you could do that in a search. You could create a save search and filter for a dollar amount. But and later we'll try to do, maybe we'll do that one. But you can't do that in global. There are only certain fields that are global searchable. When you create custom fields, you can tell the system, I want this to be a global search field or not. And typically it's when it's assigned to a list, not just a text value, because a text value could be anything. And I don't know if that's true all the time, but I did notice that recently. I was trying to add one, and the only way I could click global search was if I had a type of list. But as I say that out loud, I realize we have done some other ones where like the PO reference number, we make a new field for something and we make it global searchable and it's text. So I think I might have just misspoke. But that's on new ones. You can't change, that I know of, you can't change the way NetSuite delivers it, which fields are searchable. Okay, Corey, let's do the next CPE question.
Okay, we'll go ahead and pop it up. Launch question 2. CPE question number 2 is up. In the global search bar, the underscore character will match a string of any length, true or false. It's pretty split on this one so far. That's a tricky one.
Yep.
About 30 seconds left on the CPE question. About 10 seconds left. All right, I'm going to end the poll. I'll show the results real quick. So we're split on the true false. So what is the answer to that one, Dana?
That's false. It's a single character.
Okay.
The percent sign will be a string of any length, but the underscore is 1. So obviously the teacher failed on that one. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is how to find help in NetSuite. And there's lots of ways, and there are ways that I won't even talk about, but inside NetSuite, there's a couple. There's field level help. So when you click on the label of the field, it pops up the description of that. And this can be hit and miss. First of all, the system delivered ones, your company may not have edited them, although they can be edited, which is super helpful. Especially if you're doing custom fields, you can add your own help on them. But they added the feature that you can customize NetSuite's field level help, and so that can be really helpful. And if I'm an administrator, I would like to go in and fix those field level helps, right? To say, for new users, click on the label and it'll tell you what to do in this field. So that's really helpful. The next one is the Help Center. You can click on the Help button at the top of the screen, or you can type in the global search, help, colon, and then what you're looking for, and it'll go straight to the Help Center. It's contextual, so it'll jump you into this table of contents exactly where you were in the system, saying, oh, you must want help about where you are. And then you can also get the user guides here, the training, and jump into Suite Answers. And I'm going to show you these in NetSuite, but there's also the support tab to go to Suite Answers. And you can type in your question and get answers on those. I think the one I use the most is the Suite Answers. I also, frankly, just go out and Google it and look for stuff, because there's an amazing amount of stuff out on the internet that you can find. So the label help is right here. You can pick the click on the label and it'll show you. This help takes you directly to this table of contents where you can search around. I find this interesting. I like this a lot, sometimes better than the Suite Answers, because you get it in a grouping. So I can say, I want to know about accounting period management. Now I can read all about it in one place, and it's organized for me versus just jumping around from link to link. But so I like seeing a table of contents on the left. They also have user guides here that if you're curious about a certain product that they're selling, you can come out here and read about it on these PDFs. And this can be really helpful, especially if you're thinking about purchasing a new module or something like that. You can come out here and read about it to find out, is that something that's going to help you? This is another way to get into the new release to see what they're giving you in the next release. There's some training videos here. This training button will take you to the NetSuite site where you can sign up for training, which can be really helpful. And then I'm also going to go here. It's always on the far right here. If you go into support and go to Suite Answers, then that's where you can go search for things. And I think if you haven't used it much, they have changed the search where it's you can type in questions and it's more language friendly, but over time you get better at wording your questions to get to the right answers. So that's good. And like I said, Google is always helpful too. So let's see, let me look at I'm going to show a trick, and this is kind of in a random place in this presentation, but it comes up frequently where if they get an error, let's say they go and they try to do a journal entry and they get an error, and and it's a permission error, and they don't know how to fix that. And they don't know how to tell their administrator what permission they need. What you do is you have someone who has the permission to do it, go in and copy the URL and send it to the person who's trying to get in. If they click on that URL, they're going to get an error message, and that error message will usually say, it'll tell you, you don't have permission, you need the transactions journal entry permission to do this. And so if you're running into any permission errors, go ahead and copy the URL, or have someone who can do it, copy the URL, you try it, and then you'll get the error, send the error to your admin, and that really helps them narrow down what permissions to give you. I know that was just a random tip and trick in the middle of nowhere, but it always comes up. So any questions on the on the help, how to get help, or that permission? All right, believe it or not, we have another CPE question. They're a little bit, there's a close together here at the beginning.
It's okay. All right, so we'll do CPE question poll number 3. Should be launched. True or false, you have to pay extra to get NetSuite's suite answers.
And just so everyone knows, we are required to do 8 questions with the CPE. That's why it feels like a lot. So you don't have to get them right. So don't fear if you don't.
Okay, about 30 seconds left here.
And we will be taking a break in 15 or 20 minutes or so, just to give you guys a break. So if you're getting nervous about that, don't be.
All right, we'll go ahead and end the poll and I'll share the results. The answer is false. You
Yeah.
do not have to pay extra for suite answers.
Okay, now this next section is about lists. And I'll share my PowerPoint again. So we have, I really just want to show it in the system because it's so much easier. But inside NetSuite, there's list views for a lot of different areas where you can, there's sublists, and then there's entity and transaction lists. And I want to show you how to optimize those for you personally so that you can get to exactly the right data. And then also my favorite thing, another favorites with behind reminders is inline editing. I really like that. So let me show you how those work. So if we go to a list view, so let's say we wanted to see our list of constituents. And this would just be your standard inside NetSuite, we go to the list view to the menu option to go look at our constituent list. Now, notice that in this version of NetSuite, they have created multiple customer list views, and it's always based on, so they've done it for general financials, marketing. So for example, this marketing one has more information about their profile, their type, who the lead source, who the sales rep, stuff like that. And typically when you get NetSuite, there's just a basic view, and it comes with a certain set of fields across the top. Well, if I wanted my own view, because I know every time I go to look at constituents, I'm interested in certain things, you can customize the view. So once I go into this customized view, you can change the results, and you can also add filters to it. And I'm going to call this, it's going to be my view. I'm not going to make it public. I can make it public, just so you know, by clicking on this more options. But if I don't want to make it public and I just want it to be mine, I can come in here. I have to give it a new title, but now I can say, I don't really care about these things. I want to see, you know how we talked about the 1099 stuff earlier. I'm going to go in here and see if it's, wait a minute. Oh, I'm in the, let me go to vendors. I want to do vendors because that 1099 stuff's so easy, everyone. All right, we're going to look at a vendor view. And then, so we're in the vendor general view. We could, if we say, well, I don't like, let's see what the vendor financial looks like. what does it have on it? It might have our balance due. Here's our 1099 eligible over here. And then our tax ID, are they eligible for commission? So you can see by changing this view, and it'll come up. Next time I go to look at the vendors, it's a sticky setting. So it's going to remember that I like the vendor financial view. I might also customize this view. And again, I'm going to make it mine. And then I'm going to add a filter to that. And I'm going to say, I want to filter by 1099 eligible. And if I show it in the filter region, yes, then I'm able to filter that list. And we did this with the reminders earlier, but this is another way to do it, where I can say, show me all of my 1099 eligible. No, let's say I want to review everyone that I've said they're not eligible for a 1099. And then I might come and look at these and make sure that, yeah, these look reasonable. And so I can filter it at the top, and then I can go back and say all. So this can be, and again, you can do this for transactions, entity records, so vendors and customers. One of my favorites is to go into the transaction view. And if I work in the accounting department, and let's say I make journals, or my team makes journals, I can come in here and look at my transactions and create filters to say, show me the journals that were created by this employee today, or something like that. Because maybe they say, oh, I know I did a journal today and I want to fix it, but I don't remember the number. This is just a fast way to find it. So I can edit this view and add filters. Here in the available filters to say created by, actually, and this isn't, I want to go to available filters. Created by, yes. I don't want to show it as multi-select because then it takes up a lot of real estate on the top of the screen. And then I can always also say date created, yes. Okay, and then I have a client where we import journal entries from another system, and sometimes we need to delete an entire import. So we use this. Let's see if that, I might have saved it on the default, but yeah, so now I can say, who's it created by? What date was it created? And then I can delete the whole set at once just from this screen. And this brings me to inline editing. Do you see this little checkbox here? When you have this turned off, none of the rows will have a little pencil in them because you're not in inline editing mode. But if you turn it back on, and you can do this on entity records too. In fact, it's usually more successful on customers, vendors, employees. When you're dealing with transactions, it'll only let you update the header part of the transaction record, not the detailed lines. But you can see this memo field, that's in the header of a journal. What's nice about this is I can actually just type in here, I can type in a memo. And let's say I wanted that memo, and this may not be a good example, but let's say I wanted it on all 3 records. I used my shift key and I clicked down and then I hit tab. Whoop. Let me do that again. I'm going to go test tab. Oop, it didn't work on the memo. I think it works on checkboxes and drop downs better than memo fields. But then more importantly with that, when you're looking at a journal, I could highlight these 3 right here, and I could go over here to this little green drop down and I could say delete record, and it's going to delete all 3 of those records. I tell you that with great power comes great responsibility. Don't do this. It's here. You can delete a lot of data this way. And I'll give you a warning too. If you delete it this way and you use Avalara, and let's say you delete some invoices, Avalara doesn't recognize the delete. And so you would have to go to Avalara and delete those records in Avalara also. So I'm just giving you a warning that deleting them this way is it's great in most cases, but don't abuse it because it doesn't work quite the same way as a delete from the user interface. And of course, some of you don't have the ability to delete. I would question that everyone should have the ability to delete, but it is helpful. Another, I'm going to close these. You know what I found out just last week, which I think is really funny. If I right click on here, I can say close tabs to the right or close other tabs. That's been really helpful, and I'll show you why. If I'm in here and let's say I want to delete these 3 journal entries, I hold my control key down and I say edit, 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 and it opens them up here, and I'm opening them in edit mode. And so then I can make my changes, and then I say save, save, save. And then I can come back here and just say close tabs to the right. I love the control button so that I can just go click, 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 click if I have to change a whole bunch of them at the same time. And so that's where I find these list views are super helpful. Let's see if I've, yeah, it's that the control key and the shift key when you're highlighting them is really helpful. I'm going to go back to the list of entities because you'll notice on some of the records you have a lot more fields that you can edit straight from here, which is so much faster than trying to edit the record, find the field, save it, and change it. So you might create a list view specifically for editing any of the fields that are direct line, inline editing available. So in this case, I can change my family member type and my status right here, but there may be other fields that you want to change. Just put them all on a list view, and then you can just click through and change them. I could do right here. Let's try that primary one again. If I click on that, click like that, hit tab. Yeah. So because it was a drop down, it let me change all 3 of them. And I know checkboxes work the same way. So it didn't like that one that I changed it to primary. Okay. So next time I come in, it's going to come into the view that I select here. So all that to say, super powerful. And I think you will like that if you're trying to make inline editing changes. Any questions on the list views?
Dana, there's one question from Bernie. Says a list saved searches, select a creator author. How do you delete many saved searches? I don't think you can do that via inline editing.
I'm not aware of that inline editing on the save search view. So yeah, I think those you would have to say, let me look at this search. I believe.
I don't know if you could do it with like a mass delete script.
Yeah, probably.
That's probably the only way to do it.
Yep, I think you're right, because you can't even get to that little green button on the right, and there is no inline editing for a saved search. And so you can do a saved search of saved searches. So you could say, I want to see one that hasn't been run, that was created by a certain person and hasn't been run in a certain amount of time, and then delete those, but it might have to be with that mass delete script. One thing I forgot to show you, if you're looking at a customer record or a vendor record, let's go look at, I'm going to look at a vendor. You can also edit the sub list. We didn't talk about the sub list view down below, and that can also be, you can create new filters for it. So it can be helpful. Sometimes this list can get really long down here if you're looking in the financial at the transaction list. You can also create, just a minute. There we go. they have it buried down here. I usually have it showing much sooner. So all that to say, you can change where these tabs show up in what order and also where they are on your menu. So if you have to dig really far for something, maybe ask your administrator to move it. So right here, you can customize this view, add new filters across the top if that's helpful, so that you can filter out this list and get to what you're looking for a lot faster. So another way to navigate the sub lists, and that's everywhere in NetSuite also. So everything I just talked about relates to all lists that you see, except that Save Search list, to your point. But you'll know right away because you'll see that inline editing button that you can turn on and off to make it helpful. All right, let's do a CPE question and then we'll take a break. So if you're not answering the CPE questions, go ahead and you can take a break.
Okay, question number 4 is launched. This is a multiple choice. You can customize the list view for the following NetSuite records. And I just looked, and I don't think actually the mass delete scripting can run on Save Searches. So I
Okay.
don't think that's an option.
Oh, really?
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, you,
I can't deploy it to Save Search record or object type. So, yep.
Is
Only
it,
Save Search exceptions mapping, whatever that is.
are you using a mass update, custom mass update script?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, maybe there's well, the one that I have won't work. So maybe there's another version that could work. But that would be a great tip and trick if you can get that to work, Mike.
yeah, I'm wondering if I can throw that together by our tip and trick at the end here.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. Polling question. We're going to go ahead and end that.
Yeah. I
The
noticed
answer.
I had a typo in it. It should say custom records, not customer records, but it doesn't matter. The answer is the same regardless.
Oh, right. Yep. The answer is E, A, B, and C.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. Let me share my screen. Print checks and forms. I'm just throwing this one out there because maybe, I don't know if people know about it. Obviously you do if you have to print your checks. I know so few people who print checks anymore. It's becoming less and less important. But if you do print your checks, there was the back to front option was an important part of learning how your printer works with NetSuite when you're printing. So you can flip it. So I know some people would print their checks and then they would have to, the check numbers would be wrong because it's pulling the back to the front versus front to the back. So that was just an issue. You can go back to your bill payment and recheck the print checkbox in order to reprint it. You can also, when your voucher details are too long, you can select allow reprinting to see all vouchers and go reprint a voucher, which is a separate document than the check if you print your vouchers separately. Again, this might not be relevant anymore to most people, but I just wanted you to know it's out there. And I will show you, it's under transactions. Financial print checks, management, print checks and forms. So there's a lot out here that you can queue up. Sorry, because I was in the other screen.
On the plane? Yeah, on the plane. Which airlines did you go through? Delta.
Sorry, Dana, I muted everybody. Yeah, okay.
Yep, I saw that. We need to mute everybody all right, print checks and forms. And so you can come in here and this is where you can go to print everything. Statements, if you generate statements, things like that. So it's just an area of NetSuite, frankly, that we don't get into very much. But now we're going to move into reporting. And we have an entire reporting. We've done it several times, different ones. We focus on different reporting methods in different ones, so please don't consider this a comprehensive. I will, per the request earlier, do a quick save search just to run through that, but it's not going to be comprehensive. So come to the January one or look up some of our other posts to see what we have. So with reporting options, there's reports that we'll talk about first. There's hundreds of pre-configured reports. They have subtotals and hierarchies that make them pretty. You can control filters and columns with them. You can customize the report layouts so that you can control the rows that show up on financial reports. Let's say if you wanted to create a new financial report that had EBITDA down below the line or something like that, you can do that. And they're smart enough to know the signs like debits and credits. They understand that, oh, this is the native sign. I want to see it this way for that, which can be really helpful. Where save searches are super powerful ways to go straight at the database and pull data out and filter it, sort it, and show you exactly what you want to see. They're very literal, so you don't want to use them for, say, a financial report, because if you say, give me the balance of this account, it's going to be debit or credit. It's not going to be the native, it's not going to fix those signs for you like a report would do. So anytime when you're dealing with financial reports, I steer people toward reports versus save searches. Save searches are more when you want to just get a flat file of results to look at or export. So it's not hierarchical. It doesn't have subtotals. It's just like pulling a flat file of an Excel file, let's say, of the data that's in the system. And you need them, to create dashboards, custom views like we just did, custom reminders like we did, email alerts, and scheduled, in this case, it would be scheduled searches. Then there's also the Suite Analytics Workbook, the latest and we say and greatest because not everyone's using it yet. It's hardly, I don't know if I can say new anymore because it's been out there for several years. It's still a work in progress, and I say that I think it will be for a long time because NetSuite is adding new data to it. And if I had to describe it, I'd say it's like save searches, but it's more powerful, and you can do more attractive reporting. You can do pivot type tables and things like that. So it's very powerful. It could replace save searches for sure, because you can create flat files easily. I don't think it's going to replace the financial reports because it doesn't do well with the financial data. I'd stick with the standard reports if you're doing that. This it's an entirely different area in NetSuite that we go into. We can pop in there briefly to take a look at it, but I'm going to go into NetSuite and we can start looking at the various reports. So if you go to reports, and just as a hint, you can just click on the reports header and it takes you can do this on any of the menu tabs, but if you click on the reports header, then you get all of these drop downs. Do you see how it has new, recent, saved? Okay, they're now here, and you can expand one at a time. If this is easier to deal with than the reports drop down, because I know sometimes that reports drop down can be hard to manage. And so here we have financial reports. We'll probably look at them more than other ones. I'm going to open the income statement and just go over a few things about the reporting. So if we're looking at an income statement, it of course looks at your chart of accounts, and it's showing you all of your accounts with their roll-ups and the totals. And the bottom, you can put in a subsidiary context. I'm going to change that to consolidated and see if it changes it. You can change your columns to say, I want it by class or department or location, or if you have a custom segment, you can add that in here. You can see it by subsidiary, In this case, they had a custom segment called Fund or Program and Grant. So you can add those column titles. You can also do it by accounting period. I'll say refresh, and now it's going to do that. Down here, one thing to talk about with the dates, if you recall when we were looking at our preferences, the set preferences, we said that we wanted to report on financials only by period. That's why I'm seeing periods down here. If I had said never report by period, I would see dates down here. One thing to note, if you're looking at the bottom of this, you can change things in here, and it's not going to change the report until you hit refresh. If you've got filters at the top of, say, like a saved search, every time you tab out of it, it changes it. So one thing to note when you're saving a report, if you put in the period, I like to put in like last period or something so that it moves with me. Otherwise, it's hard coded. And so because it says custom here, the next time I pull up this report, it's going to be May to January. And maybe you want that, and that's fine. But if you don't want that, you can change the period here to be a period that'll be relative to the time that you're running it. So keep that in mind. And then every time you open it, it'll be last period or this period. So you can save it that way. If you customize a report, actually, I'll go over a few more things over here. You can change the view. You can see it in a grid. You can change your system preference on the expand level. I just learned something new on this. If you change that, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Sorry, that I'm not sure if it works here. If I change this expand level here, if it holds true to when I export it to Excel. That's why I want to show you another way. But you could change your, you could say collapse all here, and then it does that. Another way to do that is over here. You can use this button. And if you say collapse, it's going to collapse them all. And then if you hit it again, it goes up again, another layer. And then this comes down a layer at a time. Or if you just want to open up one of them, you can do that. I find that nice if I'm trying to look at a summary so that I don't have to see all of them. I just collapse it down to total income, total expense, total COGS, total expense. And then you can see those comparisons across. And when you're doing month over month, that can be really nice. You can export it to Excel, PDF, CSV, Word. And while we're here, I'm just going to talk about, you can of course print it, but you can also email it from here just by clicking on the email button and then adding a message and a recipient here. So this would be one way to do to email a report, but you can also schedule it to say, I would like this report to run every Monday morning, and I want to send it to, maybe you have someone who doesn't log into NetSuite, a board member or something like that, and you want to send them your financials every Monday morning. You could send an income statement, put in your time, and say how often you wanted to do it. You could add your recipients in your message and then add attachments if you wanted. So I think that can be really powerful, especially when you have people, like I said, who can't log into NetSuite, but you want to make sure they're up to date on things. So that was this little schedule button. That is not available on every report, but on a lot of them, you'll find that. So if you see that button, now save searches, they can all be scheduled, but only certain reports can be scheduled. This little button right here is more filters for this report. So if I said I only want to see a certain class or a couple classes, you can pick them here. So any of these, keep in mind though, if I select a class for this, and then I close this filter and I run the report, if I come back into this income statement, it might remember that filter. And then you're looking at it and you're thinking, this does not look right. So make sure you check your filters here. If you're looking at something and wondering why it doesn't look right, make sure that you don't have filters left over from the last time you ran that. You can customize reports. There are several ways to do this. what I talked about in the slide was editing the layout, okay? And this is only on financial reports, but it's really powerful. You can create your own custom reports and change the layout. You can see this layout is standard based on account type. It's going to do all your income accounts, then cost of sales, then gross profit, expense, other, giving you your net income. Well, you can change this to say, I want to see my income instead of by account. I want to see it by department or class or constituent. So you can change a lot about this left side. I'm not going to get into it today because it is very it's very involved, and we have done sessions on it in the past, so you can look it up. But I do want to say how powerful it is. I have a client who runs multiple different reports this way, that they used to have to take it out to Excel, reformat it, and then give it to their board, and now they just create them straight in here. So it is a really good tool. And then the obvious, you can edit your columns, you can add columns. I'm not going to get into it too much. You can find the column you want here and change it. One thing I do want to point out that a lot of people don't know about is you can change the, I'm going to add the amount field a couple times. So do you see how I clicked on amount, it put it over here? I can now go to this one and I can say, I want an alternate period range for this. And if I say relative to report date, it'll change. So if my report date was this year, I could say, make this run last year. So I could select a period and say last fiscal year, last fiscal quarter. It'll go according to this one. You can also say relative to today's date. I never use this except when I want to pick custom right here. And then I can say whatever I want for that period. It's not going to move. It's always going to stay the same. I could select several using my control key. I can say I want it to be these 2 periods. And sometimes this is necessary for creating a month over month comparison on the balance sheet, for example, because the month over month balance sheet report goes all the way back in time. But if instead you just want to show one year's worth, you could do this. And the trick is you have to pick relative to today's and then custom. And then you can reorder them. You can group with previous to create some subtotals. There's a lot you can do here. Again, we don't have time today to go into all of it. You can add new filters in this screen. And in both of these, you can search for the fields you want, or you can, I'm going to show you how this works, or you can click into the record that field belongs to. Notice though, when I clicked in memo, I came up with 3 different memo fields. If you hover over it and then look down here, it'll tell you which one it is. So this is the depreciation posting reference, and it's on the journal. This is the reversal number memo, and then this one is a custom memo. So I wanted to show you, because when you see these, they're not very helpful, but if you look down below, you can see what they mean. Same with sorting, it works the same way. You can choose sort orders. This one in a financial report isn't very helpful because we clearly want to use the layout, not the sort. But I wanted to show you this more options. I discovered this recently, that if you put an expand level in here, let's say you want to collapse it, and then when you view it, also while we're here, you can say cash basis or not, show zeros or not. So if you want to have a report that consistently has the same number of rows, like an income statement, you would want to check show zeros so that it shows you every row. That's helpful if you're taking it out to Excel for some reason. You can also show activity only. And then down here is where you can add other people to share this report with them. You can select their roles or select all. This access is, you're actually bypassing the security on their permissions. So be very careful when you use access, because you may be giving someone access to something they shouldn't have access to. Audience respects the role permissions. Access does not. So be careful with that. So let me show you, if I preview this where I collapsed it in the expand level, and then I export it to Excel. If I were to do this on the face of the report and collapse it and then export it, it would just hide the rows. But if I export it to Excel, and I have collapsed it, what I like about that is it actually stays collapsed in my Excel file so that, and I'm going to show you, oh, I lied. I did this yesterday and it worked for another one, but it hid the rows is what it did. So I'm going to have to look back at what I did yesterday that made it work. I found one, see how it's 9, row 9 and row 49. I thought that by using that expand level, it would just give you that and not the rows in between. So my apologies on that. Thought I had that one. Because I know it's hard if you're taking a report out and you're, I know what I did. It was an AR aging report and I collapsed it and it did work. It exported it without those rows, but we'll keep trying on that. So let's see what else about the reports. I want to make sure I leave time for the CSV imports. One thing I would say that if you're doing bank reconciliations, we typically recommend that you take it out to a PDF and an Excel file and save the bank rec because NetSuite is notorious for unreconciling a transaction later if you edit that transaction after the reconciliation is done. And then, so if you have a PDF, the PDF can't be changed, right? It's going to show exactly what it was. And then also if you have an Excel version of it, you can do some lookups and matches if you're trying to figure out what's missing now on the new bank rec. That's just a tip and trick that we recommend both of those. Okay, that's the reports. And I'm going to show you the analytics first before we get into the CSV import. So if we go to the analytics, and this is just a drive-by, okay? This is a really,
Dana,
yeah. Go
sorry,
ahead.
just real quick. There's one question on financial reports. Is there a way to add a date timestamp when the report is ran?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me look in that. If I look at my income statement and then in this title, I want to see what shows up if you say display title. Nope, it doesn't have it there.
Can you do formula fields? Because in Save
Yeah.
Searches, you use sysdate.
Would sysdate, let's try it if I
Yeah,
add.
that's a good idea.
The question is, where would you put it? Because it would be on every single,
It's on every row.
yeah.
And that's okay.
I don't know if you can do it in a financial report though, because you have limited custom field options, right?
Yeah, let's see if we go here and we want to add a column. Yeah, it's not the same. You could certainly do it on a saved search, but if I add a formula field, yeah, the formula fields here are just plus, minus, you can't tell it what field. So here in the formula types, this is all you get. Sums, differences, percents, ratios, multiply. Yeah, so you can't do it there. Let's look in the more options. I've not tried that. I was thinking if it was up here. No.
Yeah, I don't know of a way to do it either. I was thinking it would probably require some scripting to do something
Yeah.
like that.
It's almost like you would want a field to be added to the header that would tell you that. But I can see how that would be useful, but I am
Yeah.
not aware of that. Any other questions? And again, we're going to get to the CSV, I mean, the Save Searches. So Any other
One,
one?
yeah, can you add a snapshot option to the reports which don't have that option?
No, you have to start at a snapshot report and then alter it. You can't say turn this into a snapshot. So certain reports are available for snapshots. And if you want to create a snapshot, generally you start with one of those and then you change it to be what you want, because it has to have certain filters, I think. Let me go to the dashboard. And this is, if I say I want to add a snapshot, I haven't really done this very much, but I noticed that it was a problem for me when I was trying to create one recently. Because I did what you're saying, if you want to set it up, it wasn't giving me the report. So right now, this shows you all of your snapshot reports. So what I would recommend doing is you find one of these that's closest to what you want, and then you edit it, because these
Yeah.
already have the snapshot turned on. Would you agree, Corey?
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, good question though. I should have gone over that with the dashboard, but
And then the other one I'll answer, but there's one that says in report customizations, can we limit a report to an accounting book?
yeah, I think so. Right? It would just be on the filter.
Yeah, I think it's just in the,
Yeah.
you would just filter it
Yeah.
or put it in criteria. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if we customize it, I don't think I have multi-book on here, so it's not going to show it. But I would do it in the filter right here. See if you can filter by accounting book. And you should see it over here on the right in the financial. And it might say it right here, accounting book, or it might be down here in the joined records, accounting book, and then you could filter for it.
Okay.
Okay.
All
So
right, I answered the other one, so let's
great.
yeah, we can keep going.
All right, great. So this one, this is your analytics. You have workbooks, you have data sets that you build the workbooks off of. And what I was saying was NetSuite is constantly adding new templates out here. And I would recommend that you, if you're going to get into this, poke around in one of these templates that they've added, because they've already done a lot of the work. So for example, transaction detail is where I would spend a lot of time. And if you click on that, it'll take you in. And again, these are the data sets are, if you think of that as the filter going into your database and saying, what do you want to look at? And then the workbook is, what do you want to see? So if you come up here, you can look at the data set. Where did it go? Help me out. Here. So the data set is the transaction detail data set. Let's see, need to go back. I got myself turned around there. I'm going to go back into it. If you're looking at a workbook, then you can click and look at the data set to see if they've pulled in everything you want. Then you can save it. So right here is my data set. If I click on that data set, should open that, and I can see what data is being used in here. And then the workbook itself is telling you what do you want to show in your report. And you can create several workbook pages. So like transaction overview is one page, account turnover is another page, all working off of the same data set. So it's kind of nice because you can create one data set, then create a whole bunch of views of that data. So this is more for database folks who really want to dig into it and write reports. If this interests you, it is fascinating to get in here and play around with it. It's especially useful for is if you go to write a save search and you can't get a join, like a double join where you go through from one record to another joined record. Save searches won't let you do that, but you can do that in the workbook by joining it in the data set. So if this is interesting to you, we did a whole session on this and you could get into it. I think for most people, you say data set and then it's like glazed over, don't care. And so I don't want to take a lot of our time on it, but I do want to show it to you because like I said, if it interests you, it's really, really powerful and exciting. So like I said, they've already created a bunch, or you can start out and just say, I want to create my own data set. I want to create my own views, my own workbooks into these data sets. So very, very powerful. Right, just a second. Let's see. Let's talk again about then saved searches as the final one. So I love saved searches just because once you know the data in NetSuite, then oh, I can get right at that data if I go with the saved search. And so it works great. Why didn't that? Oh, because I was probably on the other screen. It works great for getting to the heart of the matter. Let's find exactly what we're looking for. So when you say you want to do a new save search, you're going to get this screen, and this has all of the search types, which are essentially all the records in NetSuite. So I can do a save search over the chart of accounts. I can do it over customers. I can do it over vendors. The one that we spend most of our time in, frankly, is transaction save searches. And that's one thing about NetSuite that's interesting, I think, is that all of their transactions are in the same record. And so whether it's an invoice or a bill, it's in this saved transaction search, which is actually really helpful because then you can search for different types altogether. It doesn't segregate the database for you. You can look at all of them. So you're going to give your search a title, and I haven't decided what we're going to look for yet. I rarely put an ID in unless I'm using this in a script or somewhere else. I can say, is this public? Do I want other people to run it or not? Do I want this to be a list view, a dashboard view, available as a sublist view, available for reminders? We talked about reminders. In this case, I'm just going to have this be my own search. I'd say don't make them public unless you have to. Some of you wouldn't have the ability to because your permission limits who can make public searches or not. But it's nice to not clutter up the search screen with everybody's, only the ones that need to be public. So when you're in a search down here, this is your criteria. So this is your filter across the entire database. You're saying, I want to see this data. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a date filter on because I'm going to say last month because I don't want, when I run this isn't going to be good for me because we're in test data. So I'm going to leave this to I'm going to say before, and then I'm going to put 1/1/2024 just because I don't have a lot of data in here, but I recommend a date filter here. And then we can also add it in our available filters because then you can change it when you're looking at the search. You can change the filter in the top. And so by putting a filter here, you're immediately saying, I don't want to look at everything in the database because it's going to be way too much information. I can also say, I only want to see the main line, meaning I only want to see one line per transaction as opposed to all of the lines of the transaction. The only cases on a journal entry, every line is a main line. But for, say, an invoice, you're going to have one header line and then all the detail lines. So in this case, I'm also going to say for type, I'm going to say any of, and I'm going to pick just the vendor bills. Let's see, I think it's just bill. I'm going to do bills and bill credits. Okay. So this is giving me any bills and bills credits before January 1st, and I'm just going to see one line per. So this is my main filter. And then this next one, also I should say you can use expressions, because I could say, I want to see all of that, but then I want to see sales orders last year. You could create a whole new using Boolean, and or you can add expressions that can be really powerful. You can also add summary search filters on it. We're not going to get into that today. We're just going to do a simple one, but I wanted to point that out. Then in your results tab, this is where you say, what do I want to see once I've done the filter? What shows up? It always gives you some. I end up removing a lot of them, because I just want to see the date and the period, the type, the document number, name, account memo amount. I don't, I will see, I do want to see the grant. I might want to see maybe a department. This is where you can search and add them. And this is where you can do the join. So do you see these down here with the dots? They tell you it's a joined thing. So I may say account type. Let's do that one. No, because they're all going to be AP. That's not a good one. I could go into the vendor record, the attached vendor on this vendor bill. Let's do this and pull up, and I'm going to add multiple, and I'm going to say, what do I want to know about that vendor? Since we're on that 1099 earlier, I'm going to say, I want to know if they're eligible, and I want to know their tax ID. Okay, so now I added those. So now I have my whole search. I have my dates. Excuse me. You can add highlighting. We've gone into that in detail in another meeting. I already put my date filter in here and I have it showing in the filter region. I can share this with other people. If I don't want to make it public, I can give it to just one role or one person. I can make it their favorite. So I can say this is their preferred search on their list. This can be really powerful with list views because you can say, this is the list view I want for this role. Now we get into the emailing. You can say, I want to email this whenever a new transaction is added to this list. I want to send an email to someone, or I want to send it on a schedule. You can customize the message. You can attach the transaction. There's a lot you can do here. So I'm going to do save and run. And I didn't set up any emails there. But now you see your search results. I should see all the vendor bills prior to this year. And I've got, I'm showing, I shouldn't have put account because obviously the header is always going to be accounts payable, but I can see the memo, the amount, the grant, 1099 eligible, and tax ID. In this case, I may want to see if they're, I'm going to edit the search just to show you from a 1099 standpoint. I may want to see what accounts they're hitting. So I'm going to edit this search and I'm going to flip it. Instead of showing the main line, I'm going to show everything but the main line, because then I'll see what account did they hit when I paid them, because that might help you know, hey, this person should probably be getting a 1099. Is there a question?
Was it under reports?
I don't know if that's a question or just an unmuted. Okay. So now I'm seeing the bill and what line that bill hit. And you remember, earlier I talked about the debits and credits. So it's showing negative, but that's because it's hitting a credit to that account. These are debits. And then this is saying whether it's eligible or not. You can see I have more rows if there's multiple on here. You can click on the top and sort. So I might say I want to see all of the no's together and all of the yeses if they're eligible. Let's flip it. And this is interesting. I didn't even put the name of the vendor, so that was silly. I could add the vendor name. I do have name right here, but that I need to say mainline name, so I'll fix that. But But now you can see, yeah, these are all contract services and they're professional fees or legal fees. So doesn't that look good? That's exactly what it should be. But look, I have these down here. Do I have any hitting there? Nope. I don't have any hitting those types of accounts without 1099 eligible. So I'll show you one little nuance here with the name field. Because I'm showing the line items now, not the header, I need to come in here and change. I think I need to change this to the vendor name, vendor main line, and add the name field. Let's see if that fixes it. So I know that's just a super brief overview, but does that, what questions do we have about safe searches? They are an entire session on their own.
Yep. I don't think we have any other questions right now, Dana.
Okay, great. Let's see. So we talked about, okay, there was one more thing that I wanted to show you, because this is a common question I get from accountant types, is they'll go and they'll run an income statement, and this relates in other places, but it's particularly useful here. Let's say they wanted, I should have, let's just collapse that. Okay, let's say they wanted to see the detail behind this program service fees and they drill in, and this is your detailed report. And then they get here and they say, oh, but I need to see the department or the class or the memo or something like that. So they customize it and they add the memo, which this is another trick. It's called description if you want the line level memo on a journal, not memo, because the memo is the main field, not on the header of the memo. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add description. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to put it next to the name. I like my amount to be on the end. I'm going to save this as my income statement detail. Actually, I think I did this already. So it, I'm going to call it test because I think I have another one out there called my income statement detail. So I have now saved this as my income statement detail. I made whatever changes I wanted so that I can see it. There aren't any memos, so it's not helpful, but you could put department, class, whatever segment you want. And so, you know, every time you have to come in here and customize it. Well, now that I have a saved one, I can go back to the summary. I can customize this summary and I can go to the more options and I can say, I want my drill down report to be, I'm going to say the one that I just did, my income statement detail test. And then I'm going to call this the DL income statement. And this isn't public, so it's just for me, right? And now I save that because now when I come in and run this income statement, did it save? When I run this income statement now, and remember I changed my collapse earlier, that's why it looks so funny. But I can make this one a favorite. I can add it to my shortcuts. And now instead of using the system delivered income statement, I need that save button. Instead of using that one, I'm always going to go to my DL income statement, because then when I drill in, I'm going to see what I want to see instead of always customizing that drilled in one. Does that, any questions on that? That's a question I get frequently, that we set up custom drill in reports. Okay, I believe we have a CPE question.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and launch that right now. CPE question is now launched. True or false, to get the best formatting and subtotals for a report, build your query using the Save Search capability within NetSuite. Split opinions on this one.
Wow, almost exactly split.
Yeah. Just real quick, there's a question on the save searches would work for accounts receivable. Would save searches work for accounts receivable? I was gonna respond to that one, but I'll let you respond, Dana.
Okay. They would work if all you're trying to do is get maybe a balance of a customer at that moment, because there's a customer balance field on the customer record. You could go at it that way, but you're not going to get good as of reporting like you can in an AR report. And you're not going to get, you're just going to get a flat file that says this is this customer's balance. You could get you could get due dates on the transactions. You could do all that, but it's just not as powerful as the AR aging report. There are only a few reports in NetSuite that you can get as of certain dates, like inventory reports. You can do AR and AP. And so if you want to show an auditor as of 12/31, what was your open AR? Your best way to get that would be through the report. With Save Searches, you'd have to use the system notes to get it, and it's ugly. And so I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay. So the answer to the polling question is
It is false. If you want formatting and subtotals, you should really use a report, not a Save Search. So obviously, I maybe worded the question wrong, or didn't describe it very well, because we're almost a split on that one.
yeah, that's okay.
Yep. That's
Okay.
All right. So one thing I wanted to show, this is another pretty random thing. It's exporting the GL impact, because I've had people say, well, I need the GL impact of that journal because I want to create an import. I just want to change it and then create an import, or any other reason why you might be exporting a journal. So I'm going to go look at a journal and want to show you, and this is on any transaction, the way this works. So, oh, this is funny. This one's pending approval. Let me go in a different way. I'm going to go to the bill. When you're on the bill, oh, they're all pending approval. So they won't have a GL impact. Just a minute.
And Dana, just real quick, a time check. It's 5 to 11.
I was going to ask you, what time do you want me to target?
If we could target another 20 minutes or so,
Okay.
I think that would be good.
Okay. So I'm gonna I'll buzz through the rest. I think we can make that without. So I just want to get to something that actually booked. Okay. So excuse me. I'll look at this bill. And on most transactions, you have a GL impact tab. It's interesting. This is an older version. I don't see it down here. That's why I'm confused. In NetSuite, they didn't used to have the GL impact tab. I think most of you have that now down below. It's been added where you can click on it. But what I've noticed is that when you click on it, there is no export button on it. So I wanted to show you this one right here. It used to be this was the only way to see the GL impact under the actions drop down. And when you do that, you can click on this Excel button. And so for those of you who need to export GL impacts, you can print from here and you can export from here, where I'm sure most of you know that button, there's usually a tab that says GL impact. You can't do it from there. So I don't remember if my CPE question, Corey, will you look at the next question? Was it related to that, or was it related to report?
I don't know if I can look at it quickly
Look at the
here.
next one and see if it's related to
Hang on a second.
CSV imports or add-ins. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
I just
Hold on a
realized I
second.
came to the slide, but I might have done that one already. I have 2 topics left, and I think they both have a question. Have we done 6 or 5?
That we've done 5 questions. So the next question is about the GL impact.
Okay, so go ahead and show that one.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
All right. So let's launch a poll question. To export the GL impact of a transaction, the easiest way is.
We have some good short-term memory retention going on.
About 30 seconds left on the polling question.
I think we're good because I've noticed usually about 80 something people. So.
All right, I'm going to end the poll then. Oh, last one.
Oh,
okay.
The answer was B. Yeah, click on the GL impact option and the more actions.
Okay, great.
All right. So popular bundles in NetSuite. I just wanted to show you a few of them. And then our last item is going to be CSV imports. So we're going to spend a few minutes. So this is going to go really fast. Some of these you're not going to care about. I should go sticky notes, file drag and drop, dashboard navigation portlet, last sales activity, and subsidiary navigator. You can go back to this slide and look at these and learn more about them. But I did want to introduce them to you because I think they're pretty good and they're free. And so sticky notes allows you to add a sticky note to a record. And then next time someone pulls up the record, it'll show. You can direct it to certain people, not to everybody, or you can make it public so everybody sees it. You might want to put it on a customer, like don't sell them anything else. They don't pay their bill or something like that. You can go do whatever you want with these. And so this is kind of fun. You can have different colors. You can have different rules. You can make it email someone if you tag them on the sticky note. It's pretty cool. Flat file drag and drop puts this little box right here on entity records and transaction records so that you don't have to go down to communication files and then add a new file down here and do the pop up and find it. Instead of doing that, you just drag it from your screen and drop. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Dashboard navigation portlet. This one, I had forgotten about it, frankly, but it's pretty cool. It's you can set up navigation. You know how in your shortcuts menu, you can't make it pretty and you can't say, I want this group and this group and this group. With the navigation portlet, you can set up your links and then you never use these basically, and you would just use this navigation portlet for all the things that you care about, and you can add your own icons and things like that, so you can set that to be whatever you want it to be. The last sales activity is another one. If you're a sales organization that you want to track the last time you called that person, the last time you emailed them, you can set up last sales activity and it'll automatically update that field. And you can tell it a task doesn't count as a sales activity, but a phone call does, or something like that. So then it'll track that. And then you can run reports to say, who do I need to reach out to? Who haven't we contacted? Finally, the subsidiary navigator, if you have multiple subsidiaries, this can be really helpful. Do you remember when we were looking at the preferences and you could limit your view to a certain sub? You can do that here also just by clicking on the subsidiary. Then if I say I only want to see Canada right now, then until you change it or until you log out and back in, you're going to be looking at everything filtered for Canada. So that's the subsidiary navigator. So that's just a quick drive-by on some popular bundles that are free that we see loaded a lot. So any questions on that?
There is a question, can these bundles be added to individual users only, or does it need to be added system-wide by the admin?
They're system-wide by the admin. Good question. You can control, I think, some things about if it's on certain forums, but yeah, everyone's a little bit different. For example, subsidiary navigator is a portlet. So you could remove the portlet for some of your users. So you have some options on that, but they are global. They're not individual. Okay, we have a CPE question, so let's pop that
Okay.
one.
All right. That's about CSV imports. Is that not?
Go to the next one then, sorry.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna come back to that
order
one.
of these thinking, oh dear.
Here we go.
Okay,
Yeah, should be fine.
okay, sorry about that. That's funny, Corey, because I changed the order in my presentation because I thought I gave you the order of the questions wrong.
Oh.
I thought, oh, it'd be easier for me to just change my presentation rather than asking you to change. And then I got it wrong. So we just have one more topic.
And sticky notes is a bundle that needs to be installed, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So Tracy, if you don't see sticky notes options, then that bundle is not installed in your account.
And most users don't have the ability to install bundles. You'd probably have to go to your admin and ask them to install it. Okay.
All right, just a couple more seconds here. CPE question. Going once, going twice. All right, I'm going to end the poll here and share the results. The answer is?
It's false because a lot of them are free, and if they're not free, I believe you're licensing with the creator.
Yeah, or you have to sign an agreement with NetSuite if it's a bundle that they charge for.
Yep. So you'll know when you're loading the bundle if you have to pay for it, and so and then some are managed, some are not managed, meaning they load them and you can change them so they're unlocked, and then some are locked and they update them before every upgrade to the system. So our last topic is CSV imports. And a lot of you may not need this or need to use it, but it doesn't hurt to know what's available because, for example, if you make a mistake or you change your mind on how you want to deal with some data, later you can clean up that data using a CSV import. So by using an update import, you can say, dump all my customers out and I'm going to go fix some things and then I'm going to upload it and I want to fix it. Or if you need to import a group of things, either transactions or entities at the same time, it's really helpful. So you can save searches, can be public or private. You can use save as if you need to update an import that someone else created. And when you do that, you'll have to update the ID also. Otherwise, it'll give you an error. And I could show you that in a second. Column headers are case sensitive. And so I'll show you how that comes into play. You also can't use the pound sign in the header. It doesn't like that. I forgot to put in here, you don't want to have multiple columns with the same header. That would be a problem too. And then watch out for date issues when you're importing CSV imports because the dates sometimes flip to Julian. If you have an error and then you open up the error report and you save it somewhere else, sometimes those dates flip to Julian and it doesn't like that. It also will flip your posting period formatting from like April 2024 to putting a dash in it. And then when you try to import it, it doesn't like it. So you can get it back by changing your format to a custom format of MMMYYY. I recommend taking a screenshot of your mapping so you can refer to it if you have issues later. If you're, let's say you're updating your mapping, and I can show you how to do all of these things. So for CSV imports, we have, what I did was I exported some customers, and we're going to do a CSV import of these customers. So here's my file that I'm going to be importing. And you can see that I have header names. These are really important because these are the names that you're going to tie into the record that you're updating or adding. And then, so you don't want to have empty column headers. You don't want to have an old formula down here. So you want to make sure these are clean cells outside of what you're importing. You also want to have any numbers that are dollars. They shouldn't have a comma in them because it won't take a comma. It has to be just the number format without commas. So now if I go into setup and I'm going to do an import, and I'm going to import CSV records. So I'm starting from scratch. I'm going to these are the import types. I'm going to don't show. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, so the import types, these are all the things that you can import, and there are limits. There are some transactions that you can't import, and there are some records, but all custom records, all entity records are in here. I'm going to do an entity record, which is in here as a relationship record, and when I click that, then you get a second one, and I say, okay, I want to do constituents. I'm going down here, then you say, what file are you uploading? Where did I put it? I think it was. Okay, it is. There we go. I picked the file, and it has to be CSV. And then you say next. And here we have, are you adding, updating, or adding and updating? I always do one or the other, add or update. I rarely do add or update because that can be dangerous. You can accidentally create new records when you meant to update current ones. So in this case, I'm adding. In the advanced options, you tell it which custom form you're adding to, and that'll give you which fields you're available to map to. You can turn on and off the suite scripts and things like that. Typically, we don't go into this advanced options. Once you've saved it and run it once and you're using it over and over again, you don't have to do that. So this is the heart of it. You're mapping. These are the columns that you have in your Excel spreadsheet, and these are the NetSuite fields that you're mapping to. Now, I happen to name mine exactly what the field name is, and that's why it pre-mapped these for me, which is nice. In the individual, I'm going to go ahead and set that to yes. I'm going to hard code it to yes in my import because that's a required field. My subsidiary is required, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it which subsidiary. I don't even know if that's where I want them. And then everything else I'm just pulling in off of my columns. You can see that constituent type didn't map. If I look over here, it looks like you could pick a field to map it to. To do that, I might come down here and say project coordinator, and then come over here and pick the project coordinator. I think the form that I use doesn't have that, so I'm not going to import that. So again, this is the Excel file with all of the headers. This is the fields that you're populating. All right, so then I say next. I might get an error on the screen sometimes if I have something formatted wrong. I'm going to say import constituents. I'm going to say 3 because it looks like I was playing with this. All right. All right, and then I'm going to say save and run. And so now it's going to import those. It's going to try. And when you get to this green bar, you can click on the import job status and see how you're doing on your import. And I got 0 of 19. I'm going to refresh to make sure that was the right one. Yep. You can change your dates to say what jobs do you want to look at. So I did that on purpose so that we could see this CSV response. I actually thought some of them would come in. So let's see. I clicked on that. So now I can see what were my errors. Why did it error out? And this is the fun of CSV imports is if it had brought in some of them, it would only show me the ones that errored out, and then you would fix them, and then you would go ahead and try to import them again. So this is telling me that I have these problems, and I think it's because I made it an individual, but then I gave it a company name, so that's why none of those went in. And so I could work through this file right here, fix my problems, and then save this as my next import. And then until I get all of them going in properly. But it's this error column that's super helpful to help you know why the CSV didn't import. So I realized that was super fast, but we are running out of time and we have one more question before we go into our open forum time. I want the CPE question, so that you guys can answer that and be done with the CPE stuff. So go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead and launch that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, the final CPE question is launched. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
About another 20 seconds for the final CPE question. Don't forget to stick around for our open forum to ask questions. All right, we'll go ahead and end the poll. And what is the answer, Dana?
It is none of the above.
Ah, very good.
Yep, it doesn't like any of those things.
Okay.
All right. I can stop sharing.
Okay. So awesome. Thank you so much, Dana. That was jam-packed full of a ton of awesome information. Mike, I'm going to leave it up to you. Do you want to do the tip and trick that you had prepared, or we can save it for another time and move right into our open forum? We do have some questions in the chat window that I was thinking we could just discuss during the open forum time.
Yeah, I can do the tip and trick. It definitely won't be 15 minutes, probably 5 or less.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
All right, let me do a share here. So my tip and trick is a tip and trick actually I've done in the past, and I got tripped up again at work on it. So for those, and I think a decent number of you might be asked for the same thing. So yes, can you all see my Google slide thing, RMNSUG tip and trick?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the question that is being asked, we are a publicly traded company, so we deal with a whole bunch of audits. And any of y'all who deal with audits, journals are right on top of the list. So a big question we have that our controller needs, and this search is actually so important that the search itself is audited. Any change to it, we have to go through a whole change process, is what are all the journals that are pending approval that I need to look at? Basically, yeah, what are all the journals pending approval? So if you've done a saved search of journals, you know, when you start out, you're like, oh, a journal is of type transaction. So I'll do a mainline true. You know, you learn pretty quick on mainline true. And you run that search and you find that journals seem to ignore mainline true. So what do you do? And the answer is in Suite Answers 101239. You have to do a line sequence number equals 0. So if you want your journal search to give 1 row in the search per journal, you do line sequence number equals 0. Where I got tripped up, and I think I may have presented this on the last time I did this same talk, is that there is another filter called line equals 0 that I had historically been using. But if you go into your journal, this happens from time to time, and somebody creates the journal and then it gets rejected, and then they come back and they delete the line and then go add a new line, then line 0 might be gone now. So if you do a filter here on line sequence is 0, it'll always give you one thing. But if you do a filter on line is 0, sometimes the journals won't show up. So learn from my mistake. If you're searching journals, use what the Suite Answers is, which is line sequence is 0.
That's a good one.
Yes. All right, that's all I got for tip and trick.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and then Mike, I'm going to just let you keep running with it and run our open forum if that's okay. And maybe we start with some of the questions that are unanswered in the chat window.